So today we're going to be talking about all the different spring colors to convert them from the reformer that I teach on, which is the Xformer. So go ahead and grab a pen and paper and get ready to write down how many pounds each of these colors is. So the white spring is 4 pounds, and you have 2 of them. The gray spring is 8 pounds, and you have 3 of them. The black spring is 22 pounds, and you have 2 of them. And the blue spring is 88 pounds, and you have 1 of them. So if we add both of these white springs on, each of them are 4, meaning that this equals 8. So rather than using time to add 2 white springs on, you can add 1 8-pound spring and then take this off, and there's 1 less spring to attach. This black spring is 22, so instead of putting 3 grays, which equal 24, you can just put on 1 black spring and make it 22. Whenever we do heavy exercises, you can do 1 blue for 88. And as a modification, you can take the blue spring off. You can put 2 black, which is 44. And then you can put all the grays on. So this is 24 for the 3 grays plus 44. 44 plus 24 is 68 pounds. So instead of having 1 heavy blue spring, we can make it a little bit lighter by putting 5 of the colored springs on, which will be lighter than the blue. If at any time this is too heavy, you can take off grays, releasing 1 8-pound each time you release. Now let's talk about heavy spring exercises and light spring exercises. When we do a heavy exercise like a blue, adding more springs will make it heavier because all these springs are pulling the carriage in very fast. So to intensify, you would add more springs, and to modify or make it easier, you would release springs. So you have to remember, for heavy exercises, more springs hard, less springs easy, meaning the weight. Now, this is opposite when we talk about light leg or light ab or light spring exercises. We usually will have 1 gray and 1 white equaling 12 pounds. Because the machine that I teach on, the Xformer, 1 white spring on their machine is 11 pounds. So we need to add the 8 gray and the 4 white to make 12. So this is typically the regular spring load. In your manual, it says 1 gray equals 1 white spring on the Xformer, because I just didn't want to have you to have 2 springs on. But if you want to go with Xformer, you would do 1 gray and 1 white, or you can just do a gray. Now the nice thing about these white springs, if you have them, is if you want to intensify or make an exercise harder on a light spring exercise, you can change the 8 pounds to 4 pounds, and that'll make it heavier. The reason is because there's only 4 pounds pulling the carriage in, unlike a heavy exercise where the 88 pounds is quickly bringing the carriage in. So in light spring exercises, the lighter, the harder. So white is the hardest, gray is medium, and then 2 grays is going to be the easiest. Now that there's 2 gray springs, that's 8 pounds times 2, 16 pounds is pulling the carriage in much faster than 1 gray spring, which is 8 pounds, pulling the carriage in slower, which makes it harder than 2 springs. And then 1 white spring is lighter than 1 gray, so it barely pulls the carriage in. And look, I'm not even doing anything, and it's not even coming in at all, or coming in very very slow. Now remember also that if you have someone that is taller or heavier, for them, this one gray spring is gonna feel like a white spring, because when you're heavier, your mass makes everything a lot harder. So when you have someone that's very heavy, if you have them modify to 2 gray springs and they still have a hard time, they can actually go to 3 gray springs. But this would not apply to someone who is tiny or petite, because it would be too many springs and they would have a really hard time to open the carriage in comparison to someone who is heavier.